Good evening, my name is Maria Limos. I am rebuttaling a part of the affirmative team on the resolution that social media is more beneficial than it is harmful. I will be rebuttaling specifically against two claims that were made last night. One of them was made by, I believe his name was Christian, which was a part of the negative resolution towards social media, and he went over what was called a knowledge gap. And a knowledge gap, like it sounds, is when there's a breakdown in the knowledge received versus the knowledge put out. And then this allows for misinformation to spread. According to real KM evidence, there was a systemic review done by peer academics and their papers in regards to social media and its impact. This was written by Bruce Broyes in November of 2016, and he goes on to say that claims of social media being a contributor to knowledge gaps or misinformation is inaccurate because, for many reasons, social media and the devices they're supported on allow for an emergence of information to come at once, and therefore allows for more information to be taken in that would essentially fill these knowledge gaps that were mentioned. Some of the claims that were made throughout these 18 papers that were identified is that because social media, again, we learned is used on a technological device, it implies that there are other applications or settings or properties of the device that allows for this information to be pulled in and applied accurately. So if I am looking up something, I quickly can put it in my notes and then revisit it to confirm the facts or fiction of that information. It also allows me to do more research at a readily available moment. It also allows for information to be organized better, which in turn would eliminate a gap taking place from the knowledge received versus the knowledge shared, or maybe the knowledge that's just retained or held on to. According to the virtual communities, they can encourage people to continually take knowledge in on a continuous basis, which would allow for that knowledge to not have a break in its stream. Knowledge is also shared through social media with the preface that it may or may not be correct, and it's up to viewer discretion and opinion. Many social media apps that we have, or even companies that use social media, gives us that waiver, so to speak. It's under the terms of acknowledgement. And this prevents these gaps from taking place in the sense that it's a protection on the social media's part. Another claim that was made last night by Simone, and again, my fellow debaters did an amazing job presenting these claims, was that social media allows for depression and cyberbullying, and it takes a negative effect on mental health, which is a very common claim. It's something that's heard and spread rapidly through social media. Even on our Instagram and Facebook feeds, we could see ways to take care of our mental health, things to do to make sure you're not bullying, or ways to handle being bullied even. So it is a fair claim. It is a fair argument that needs to be addressed. One thing that I can say regarding this argument is that social media has been debunked, if you will, when it comes to having a negative effect on mental health and or causing depression. According to Medical News Today, which is a science newsletter, which was written by Lauren Sharkey in February of 2019, social media does in fact not have an effect on someone's mental health. This article was awesome because it includes the debates and the claims, the ones that I myself am having to rebuttal, and debunks them throughout the newsletter. And this newsletter is not just an opinion piece. It includes a study by Taylor Hether of St. Catherine's University in Canada, which shares with us that for a longitudinal study, a study done over a long time, that over 1,100 undergraduate students were studied to see if social media affects the mental health, or if the mental health was already affected and social media essentially was guilty by association. It removes the responsibility off of social media and puts the responsibility back on the human or the life circumstances that may be affecting them. They surveyed this group for 6 years, and they were surveyed every 6 months, just to kind of get a feel for what's going on in their life, and then to see how their social media or technology habits affect it, as well as if there are other elements of their life that can help them and also minimize maybe a dependence on social media, which is another concern that Simone and Christian both mention, is the rise in dependence on social media. But I really appreciate this article because then it goes on to quote the Clinical Psychological Science Journal, and that it is determined that social media usage does not lead to depressive symptoms. It held true in 2 other studies that this same journal did, which was through the Center of Epidemiological Studies depression scale, which is the actual scale they produced through these studies to measure what effect social media does have on depression and if it's the cause or not. And their findings were so insignificant that it didn't even measure onto the scale that they've created for this reason. They did, however, see that, depression is more common in women and adolescent women. But one thing that's very interesting, which again, I believe helps my case that social media is a powerful and beneficial tool, more beneficial than it is harmful, is that women, in particularly Hether, our author, states that social media is what women turn to while they're depressed. Now, that's for a whole other debate. However, I think it's fair to state that social media is there for these women or these men, because I'm sure there's men that do the same in their times of depression. It's not the reason for depression, which is another thing we saw firsthand during the COVID crisis. Is social media was the only way we could be connected, because we were told to quarantine, because we were told to lock down, and because we were told to social distance. All I had was my phone. All I had was Instagram or Facebook or FaceTime or any other devices in that sense. So I think that's very important to note, that when it counted, social media kept us from being depressed. Because I don't know about all of you guys, but not being able to see family for so long is very depressing. And imagine if we didn't have social media, which helped us exponentially during this time. So thank you for listening, and good luck to the rest of you debaters.